Hi, everyone. Welcome to Real Women, Real Purpose Talk Show live in the On Purpose Woman Global Community Facebook group. I'm Ginny Robertson, one of the hosts of the Real Women, Real Purpose Talk Show, and I'm also the founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and the founder and publisher of the On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here with Dawn Shuler today, and Dawn is a business coach and artist, and we'll be talking with her about awakening your passion. Dawn, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Ginny. I'm happy to be here.
You're so welcome. Because I've known, how many years now have we known each other? 6, 7, 8,
Something like that, yeah.
100? Feels like we were,
Lifetimes.
yeah, sisters from another mister, right? And I've known, like I said, I've known Dawn for a number of years. And you really, I think you know this, one of my favorite people on the planet and a very, very dear friend. But for those of you who haven't had the honor of knowing you, I'm going to tell them a little bit about you. And this is about your other side. You'll probably talk a little bit about what you do otherwise, but we're going to really concentrate today on that big creative piece that you've been tapping into in a big way. So Dawn can remember drawing from a young age. Both her grandmothers were painters, and since her art didn't look like theirs, she didn't consider herself an artist for a long time. But after delving into different media like fabric, paint, brush lettering, Zentangles, wood burning, and more, she finally came to realize that yes, she too is an artist. Dawn has a love affair with color, especially with her beloved color palette of purple, green, and teal. And interestingly, but not surprisingly, purple and green are also the main colors of her corporate business logo. That love affair with color is really at the core of who she's always been, a creator and a champion of unequivocally claiming who you are. So I'm excited to talk with you about this because we've never actually had this conversation before. But there's so much to talk about. But first, I'd love you to say more about not feeling like you were a real artist when you were younger. What happened to shift that for you?
I think probably because in modern times, there's so much opportunity to express yourself in so many different ways. You know, the internet is a wonderful thing. It can be used for ill and it can be used for good. And one of the good uses of it is seeing what other people do and seeing what's possible and seeing other people, yes, making a living, but making a passion out of something that I'd really love if my grandmother were still around and she could tell me what she thinks. Would she call this stuff art? I don't know. But I might have it made up in my mind that she wouldn't. But
Was she like a fine artist, or what kind of art did she
she
do?
did watercolor, and I actually don't like
Oh,
watercolor. Amazing. I mean, what she could draw and just amazing stuff. I've got her art all over the house,
mhm.
but I don't like watercolor. And she did, and so I would be very curious to know what she thinks, and it wouldn't matter because yes, I've accepted the fact that my stuff doesn't look like theirs or other people's. It looks like mine.
Well, how did you get there? I mean, what did it, was there like this one day you woke up and said, I'm an artist? Or was it part of doing, part of doing other work on yourself over time?
So I don't know if you even know this about me. I wrote a novel back in, let's say, 2006. And I
Wow.
actually, I say, there you go. And I went to Book Expo America to find an agent and to shop my manuscript around. And I always thought that I wanted to be a published fiction author. I actually have an article that I've been meaning to submit to the magazine called Books Saved My Life.
Hmm.
and and I loved books and they really did save my life, and it was that I could be transported to this other world and the characters, and I could leave momentarily, the awful circumstances I was in, and I thought I want to have that effect on others. I was a great writer. I am a great writer, and so I thought that's how it has to be expressed. And I actually worked with other people with their writing, and they had such trouble saying I'm a writer. I'm like, do you write? Then you're a writer. Like, get over it. I never had that problem calling myself a writer because I write and whatever. And so I think, and you actually inspired me. Something else that you probably don't know is you inspired me through several of your talks, the workshops of getting out of your own way, and the idea of why aren't you doing what you've said you want to do. And I was working on this bigger story. This was probably 3 years ago. And I didn't want to work on it. And I finally said, I'm done. I will not write fiction anymore. And I just stopped. And I had no feeling of sadness, no feeling of regret. I just said, I'm not doing it anymore because it doesn't fuel me. It doesn't fill me. It's not passion. It feels like I'm supposed to. And along some of those years, I'd also been playing around with paint and Zentangles, which is a Zen form of just this beautiful line drawing. And I guess I just shifted into that. And then once I got a little bit more serious, I didn't have a problem calling myself an artist, just like it was a little bit of a harder transition calling myself an artist than it was to call myself a writer. But because I'd had that experience, it wasn't as difficult as I think it could be for some people.
It's so interesting when, you were telling other people, well, if you write, you're a writer, but yet couldn't say to myself, well, I paint, so I must be an artist, or I draw, or whatever. And, I can certainly relate to that because, just there's old things that we have going on that says, oh, you're really not as good as they were, but you must not have had anybody to compare yourself to with the writing, right? You were just, good. You knew you were good.
Well, J.K. Rowling, Stephen King,
okay, well,
there were a few people, and I'm not saying I was or am as good as that, but I also, and this could be an interesting place to go too, the writing, you hear about what some of the, Diana Gabaldon, who writes the Outlander series, she writes all day long. That's what they do. They write all day long. There isn't anything I want to do all day long, even paint. I don't want to do that 8 hours. I might do it 3 or 4. And maybe twice a week, but I'm not doing it 8 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week. There's nothing that I want to do for that amount of time.
And also, if it becomes then almost like a chore, like somebody's waiting for this work from you, and now you've got to work 8, 10, 12 hours a day, then the passion can go away pretty quickly.
Exactly.
So we're going to talk today about awakening your passion, but you all say before you can awaken it, you have to actually have one and know what it is. So how did you discover? You have more than one passion, I know. So,
see, that's interesting because there are things that I'm very interested in and then I get excited about, but I wouldn't have said that I was passionate about many things.
Okay.
Maybe it's because I have it wired up in my head of what passion should look like.
Yeah.
I mean, I left my first husband because there wasn't passion in the marriage. And married my second one because there was. So, okay, I do have some sort of a definition. I also had a client who, and she may still run them, she did a 30-day passion project. And so it's this 30-day program where a passion project. And I could never think of what passion, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it. Why do I need a 30-day program to do it? And because if I'm passionate about it,
now you have to name it, right?
Yeah. And if I'm passionate about it, I'm going to do it. And I think that was why I wouldn't have said I was passionate about something, because I've got such a wide variety of interests. The quilt behind me is, one of my favorite quilts. I'd probably quilt a lot more if it didn't take so doggone long. And I'm just not that patient. And I feel like I've dabbled for years in art, including the quilting probably for 25 years. And it wasn't until the particular medium that I'm playing with now, paint pouring, where I can't get enough. Okay. And to me, that's what it feels like. I finally found my passion, and it's that I can't get enough. And I haven't necessarily had that feeling before.
That makes sense. Yeah. Because I think I'm like you. I tend to think I am passionate about a lot of things, but they're not necessarily my passion. I think there is a difference. And I hadn't really thought of that. There's a distinction there, that the passion is more about the excitement, the enthusiasm. But, if I didn't get to do it, I'd be okay.
Right.
Yeah. So how do people, what would you say to someone who says, I don't even know, I don't have a passion. I'm not passionate about anything. What would you say? Because let me just add this, you're also a coach in your other business. And so you've been working with women, especially you're a business coach, but that all it all comes down to a lot of the personal work too. So I know you must have run into some women over the years who said, I don't have a clue what fires me up or floats my boat or any of that stuff, right?
Yes. And we use, in those situations, and even with if they're not my client, I will pull out this abstract tool. You're familiar with it, and it's the zone of genius and the other three quadrants from Gay Hendricks, and in his book The Big Leap. And it's this idea that there's four quadrants we can place any of our activities in. There's the zone of incompetence, which I will say, going back to the art thing, I probably would have said, oh, art is my zone of incompetence many, many years ago, right? Then you've got your zone of competence, your zone of excellence, and your zone of genius. And it's easy to know what the incompetence and competence zones are. The excellence is the thing that you're very good at. People might even pay you to do it, but it doesn't necessarily float your boat. The zone of genius is where I could do this all day long, or I get so excited. Look what I did. I actually get that way with spreadsheets, believe it or not.
I know that. Yeah.
But yet I'm not
Not
going to
passionate about it. If we
do
cut off
that.
spreadsheets, you wouldn't go into withdrawal, right?
I do love spreadsheets. But it's like, what is it? Those places where you go, I could do this all day long, or I've just done this for 8 hours, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not tired, and I feel like I could keep going. Well, what are those activities? What's the common thing? What I found about the spreadsheets is it's the creativity.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I can have a vision of this is the problem, and I can envision the solution, and or this is what it could look like, and so let me see what I can do.
Okay.
It's that creativity. And so for people, some people just may need to really examine what they do on a regular basis. And I would really hope that most people would have at least something to put in that zone of genius quadrant and say,
Mm-hmm.
well, when I cook, I think that's my zone of genius. Well, then you're an artist, right?
Right.
You've got a passion. Um, Maybe just focus it a little bit more there.
And I'm so grateful that you introduced me to that book, because what I most love about that book is, I'd never looked at it that way before, but also the idea is that you want to live as much in your zone of genius as you can. And your zone of excellence is a fine place to dabble in, but you want to stay out of those other two
Mm-hmm.
as much as you can. And how ill-fitted we are sometimes for the things that we think are our zone of genius, because they're really not. But like you say, that we're good at it, or people pay us to do it, or we get locked into this little box. That happened with me with corporate finance. I was darn good at it, but oh my God, I was so happy that I didn't have to do accounting. I got to do planning and forecasting, because accounting made me nuts. The minute details, like, ugh, I want to round to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I got to do that in my last corporate job. And so I think, how wonderful it would be if I know a lot of companies do use some things like that, some tools like that, but a lot of them don't. They just put warm bodies into positions and then wonder why people are not fulfilled and they're not turning out good product. And so I recommend that book. Get that book, everybody. If you've got even a hint of not knowing, or if you think it might clear up some things for you. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you also say that our passion, and we can, should be something that grabs us and won't let go. So the art obviously grabbed you at a young age, and it wouldn't let go, even though you probably kind of pushed it away sometimes, or just dabbled in it, like you say, and didn't, but it just hung on. And so that's a clue, right? If something keeps popping up and you love it, you enjoy it, but you don't think you're good at it. Because let's also talk about that perfectionist piece. Because I think you also said in your write up that you've got to be willing to do it messy or not be perfect with it. So I just threw a whole bunch of stuff at you. So let's talk about the perfection piece and just talk about this idea of something that's just grabs onto you and it will not let you go. It'll keep showing up in a louder and louder way, won't it?
It will. And it's one of the reasons why in my bio it talks about that I have this love affair with color.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the quilt, one of the reasons why I love it is copper and blue and the celestial, and I can just get transfixed by color. And um, some of my earliest memories, I should show somebody this on Facebook. You know, that whole, did any of you ever have one of these? It was a 10 volume set called The Bookshelf for Boys and Girls. And it was published in 1964, and again, 10 volumes. And the third volume was Fairy Tales and Stories from Other Lands. And I
Mm.
must have read it over and over and over. And my parents ended up throwing the books away, or who knows what they did. And I found them on eBay a few years ago and bought them. But in my head, before I bought them again, I could still see some of the pages, because
Mm.
there would be every few pages, there would be like these color sections. So you have the stories that were in the blue section and stories that were in the yellow section, like the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was in the blue section. And I can still see that page. And it's this brilliant, bright blue. And I mean, it's just right there. And so it's that color piece that, yes, won't let go. Maybe quilting would have been my thing if I wasn't such a slow quilter and I could produce a little more quickly.
But you do love buying the fabric, don't you?
I do, because it's color, right? It's just,
Right.
oh, and my gift with quilting isn't designing patterns, but it's putting colors and fabrics and designs together and just going, I do get very excited. So that was the piece of it not letting go that was a clue, and it was really around color. And so paint pouring lets me just experiment and explore without that perfectionist piece, because I've probably done, let's say, 100 pieces this year.
Mm.
And we'll say 25 to 30% of them, not trash, because I just repaint it, I'll adjust them, but it's like, that did not turn out the way that I wanted. And I'm okay with that. And I don't know if it's because, well, I can just redo it. I can just go over it again. I can gesso it and start over, and it's like another blank canvas. Or, okay, learn something. It's also, I love the process. So it's the process, also the journey, not necessarily the
Mhm.
destination or the result.
Well, for people who don't know, tell them what paint pouring is.
So it's this cool thing. So as a prelude, I don't watch videos. I mean, like videos on YouTube. I don't have the patience. I'd rather read. I process through seeing the words. I don't process through videos. I have probably watched dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of paint pouring videos. So if that just says something to
Okay.
you,
Mhm.
of that. So it's this method where you take acrylic paints, which are just, you can get them at Michael's, Joann's, or just, whatever. You mix them with something that's called a pouring medium. You can make your own out of glue and water, or you can buy a pouring medium, because you want to get it kind of thinner, and you add some water, and then you just mix all these colors. You plop a cup, you mix them all in a cup, you plop the cup upside down on the canvas, you lift it up, and then it pours all over. And then you can do things like create cells, because you use oil, you can use a blowtorch, you can do, I mean, and there's all sorts of methods, and just, it's amazing to think of what you can create. So I don't know how easily this is going to show up. It's really shiny.
Oh, if you keep it like that, yes, all those colors are gorgeous. Looks like teal and purple.
I know, and copper, and all of that. And so it's just, it makes these amazing designs, and you have no, this is probably the perfection piece. You have no control over it. You can try, but those paints are going to mix however they mix. You can do everything the same 3 different times, and you will get 3 very different results. It's fascinating.
Probably really makes it even more fun, I would imagine, because you don't know. And again, you're not looking for an end product because you have no idea what it's supposed to look like. So you can relax. And here I thought I knew what paint pouring was. I thought you stood there and poured. Kind of dump, it sounds like, and then let it
You
do its
can dump
thing.
it there. And another one is like, you have your pouring cup, and then you just do it in this ring shape. I don't like that method as much, because I don't like the rings, because the rings sort of stay, and I don't like that as much. But there's all sorts of stuff you can, people use funnels. You can lay the paint down, and then you can swipe. Um, there's just, it's, I had no idea. And what's cute is my husband is really getting into it. So kind of as a break, I'll watch some of the paint pouring videos, and his desk is right here next to mine, and he'll be watching with me. And he's like, why did she do that? Oh, she did it that way. And oh, she said to do something to the corners. And then he'll say, I have no idea why I am getting so into your thing. And but it
Have you tried it yet?
yeah, he has. He's done some of his own. He's built things to make it easier for me to do my stuff. Or I'll say, oh, I wish I could do this, and then he goes and he builds it. And so we've done some innovative things that I don't think other artists using this medium have been able to do. So that's fun because he's excited, and so we get to be creative together using our very different skills.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to watch you talk about this because, in my experience, you're usually pretty upbeat and positive and joyful, but you came even more alive. I mean, you got giddy when you started talking about the process, and he does this for you until you get to do this, and so that's passion. That's it. So for somebody who thinks they know, or there's something that is kind of not letting go, kind of follows them around and they dabble in it, how do they wake it up?
So stepping out of their comfort zone, I mean, isn't that always the answer?
Take some risks, huh?
So I guess where I got, this was an important step, even though I didn't know it at the time. So, I live in this tiny little town, between, Frederick and Washington County in Maryland. And our 1,400 people town, somebody posted on Facebook, I want to start an art club. So we've got the Myersville Art Club. And so there were four of us who showed up at her art studio, and we're all working on different things. And I brought whatever I was working on at the time. And for some reason, one of them said, you should check out paint pouring. And I'm like, paint pouring? What is that? I don't know what that is. And then a few weeks later, I looked it up on YouTube, and then I was hooked. But that going to an art club, that was certainly stepping out of my comfort zone, because then there really is well, I don't know I'm ready to call myself an artist, but I do know that I like art of different forms and being around other people who are doing it. And all these three other women, extremely talented. Their stuff looks far different. Two of them are working in oils, and this one woman, like, they all have commissioned products or commissioned projects. And I'm like, I'm gonna work on like this little clinket piece on wood, and just don't mind me. But it helped me get out of my comfort zone around that.
So it sounds like you're saying pay attention. Pay attention to what shows up. I mean, what are the chances that you wouldn't have seen the notice for the art club, but you did, and then it resonated, and then you had to talk yourself kind of, okay, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
And you went and it worked out, and it shifted some other things, and you could do something more. And so it's that idea of you can't keep doing the same thing and expect to ever, this is brilliant what I'm going to say. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect to do something different. Don't you love that? But you know what I mean. I mean, we just stay in that stagnant place, kind of going, oh, I don't know what I want. I don't know what floats my boat, and nothing. I feel so empty. I just can't find that thing. Everybody else knows what that thing is, which is not true. A lot of people don't know what that thing is. But you got to have courage, right?
It does. And I think, I remember watching the Olympics when I was probably a preteen and thinking, not that I had much athletic prowess to even consider going into the Olympics, but I thought I will never do the Olympics because there's nothing that I want to do more than 8 hours a day. And I mean, I guess that was, for whatever reason, that's been part of my schema for all my life. But I knew, whether they're tennis players or skiers or runners or gymnasts, that is what they do. 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day. They're training all the time. And I did feel like, but if they do that and it's natural and it's not, the parents are forcing them to do it, how nice. I was a little envious, like, oh, that would be nice to have something like that, though.
And they know at such a young age sometimes.
Yes. And it's like, this is what I want to do. And, you and I both know Lauren Darr, and her son is a race car driver, and that's all he's ever wanted to do. And he's a rookie. He's 18. He's won championships because he's been racing for probably since he was 12 or 13, because he knew that's what he wanted to do. And I think that sometimes with this idea of passion, we think it's supposed to be that. Oh, well, it should be something that I've known ever since I was little, that this is what I wanted to do, or I've always wanted to do this, or I've always been interested. And I think we can take that word always
Mm-hmm.
out
Could
of
be
the
lurking, right?
mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing is we often will think it has to be big, it has to be something really big, like becoming a race car driver,
Or
or
going to the Olympics,
yeah,
right?
or going to the Olympics, or becoming a rock star. And playing music is really what we want to do, but becoming a rock star, it has to be something. And the same thing with purpose. I think that gets all skewed as well. This idea of purpose, and people start to think it's got to be something major. I've got to end world hunger, or it doesn't count. So it's for us. It's for us, and then it usually ends up, probably always ends up, if we really tap into it, being a gift to others in the process. So we're getting fulfilled in both of those ways. You know,
Absolutely.
Today's Thursday. Tuesday, I interviewed Safi Lynn, who is a beautiful singer-songwriter. She's a music medicine person and a vocal coach. And she talked about being a French horn player, and went to the Peabody and then studied with someone at Juilliard. And she loved it so much at the Peabody, she would go practice during lunch. She would practice when other people were having fun. She loved it that much. But when she got to Juilliard and had that level of competition, and it was apparent that there probably wouldn't be much of a life there, and she's kind of stopped feeling it. But then, as a result of letting that go, started to realize that she still was passionate about music, but it was a different form of music.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like your writing, you're still, you were passionate about writing, but it maybe wasn't your passion, but it did what it needed to do for a while. But
Mm-hmm.
then the real thing kind of showed up. You went, oh, that's it, because you could probably paint longer than you could write, right?
Yes, absolutely. The writing, I mean, I've written some great stuff, great poems, great short stories. I mean, there's some stuff I'm actually very proud of.
Mhm.
And, but it rarely felt easy and joyful.
Okay.
It
That's
felt,
two clues then.
yes, exactly. And that's why and then I was just sort of shocked that when I said, that's it. As far as I'm concerned, I won't write another word of fiction. And I expected there to be at least a tinge of sadness,
Mhm.
and there just wasn't. I thought, wow, okay, wonder how long I've been saying this is my dream,
Mhm.
and it really hasn't been. It was very interesting.
It's kind of a placeholder though, wasn't it?
It
Yeah.
was the easy in the safe, right? We talked about you
Mhm.
stepping out of your comfort zone. It was the safe place. I've been told ever since I can remember I'm a great writer, just all sorts of things. So it was that safe place for me to go, um, and I didn't. Could I have broken out of my comfort zone in that area? Maybe, but I just never got the joy out of it
Mhm.
that I do with my other art. So.
So another key point, you really need to recognize when it's time to let go of something. And
And
that can be all kinds of things, right? I mean, you let go of a marriage because there wasn't passion. You let go of writing because it wasn't that passionate. It wasn't that thing that drove you and grabbed hold of you and wouldn't let go. You were good at it and you enjoyed it.
mhm.
That's not the same thing as a passion.
That's interesting because, yeah, we've talked about that and you just very concisely laid that out. And now I'm actually going to put some of those things. My first marriage was in my zone of excellence.
Mm-hmm.
Writing was
Yeah.
in my zone of excellence. We're actually helping my ex-husband and his current wife and my daughter move from their townhouse to this beautiful house that they bought today. So I'm kind of bookending my day today, and just so happy for them and so excited. And we still tell each other we love each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very different. So it's like, yeah, very much zone of excellence, not zone of genius. I have never put that thought of some of our life choices,
Mm-hmm.
our life choice points could be plotted on that 4 quadrant map. I never thought of that before.
I'm thinking about my first marriage, and I think that was my zone of competence.
Hmm.
I was good at something. You know what I mean? I was good at keeping things together and handling everything. I had lots of roles there that made me feel really important, I think. And, because I didn't have a clue who I was yet. I was 20 years old when I got married. So I kind of fell into that. And most of my career was like that zone of incredible competence and probably excellence in many ways. But one day I just said, I'm done. Kind of like that. I can't do this any longer.
Mm-hmm. And I think part of that making the decision, whether it's a marriage or that leaving something behind, like this dream of writing, whatever it might be, I have found that almost all of those decisions where I decided to let go, I could have done them earlier, meaning
Mm-hmm.
I believe everything happens for a reason, but it's like I waited too long. It's not quite the right I want to say it, because I don't beat myself up over decisions I've made, but it's by the time I've made those decisions and I go, oh, you know what, I was actually probably ready to make this decision, or I should have made this decision 2 months ago, 2 years ago, whatever it might be. And so I guess the advice that I'd love people to get from that is, if you're afraid to make that leap or make that change or make that decision, you're probably already past the point to where you're actually ready.
Yeah. And I also love this idea that not making a decision is a decision.
Mm-hmm.
So we may lament how things are going and we just can't, we think we can't decide on some conscious level, but by not deciding, we've decided. We
Absolutely.
decided I'm going to settle for this right now. And again, we have to have tools to be able to make those kind of shifts. My 20-year-old, even my 30-year-old didn't have the right tools to make good decisions like that, or the confidence, or the maturity, I guess, really. I had nothing to compare it to, nothing to look at that said, this is what you do. I'm older than you. And, a lot of my generation, even though we weren't the generation, we were like the kind of new generation after our mothers and our older sisters, we were kind of the ones that were getting kind of sassy and, stepping out and taking on things. But there were still these restrictions that said, this is where you stay and this is where you belong. And so that idea, I remember doing a workshop years ago, my Getting Out of Your Own workshop, and there was a woman there who was in her 70s. I didn't know her. And I asked everybody to introduce themselves. And she says, I want to be a writer. And I kind of do what you did. I said, well, do you write? She goes, well, yeah. And she was kind of like, yeah. And I said, so you pick up a pen or do you type? She goes, no, I write by hand. And I said, then you're already a writer. She goes, well, I don't really know. And it was so interesting to watch, even in one day, the transformation when she started to actually go, well, of course I'm a writer, because that's all it means is I write. She may not have felt like she was a competent writer yet or as good as she wanted to be. But I think as soon as we say that stuff to ourselves, it shuts us down. And opportunities can come along like an art, what would you call it? An art club.
Art club.
And you're going to say, oh no, I've got to get better before I can go do that. Right. And so we don't even recognize it. It's kind of like, working out, exercising at home so you can go to the gym and look good, or cleaning the house before the person comes to clean the house, all that stuff that just all about perfection, isn't it?
It is. And there's a great juggling video, and I don't remember the guy.
Juggling video?
Juggling video.
Do you juggle as well?
Oh my gosh, no, but Mark does. We've got a whole box full of juggling implements, whatever.
But interesting man.
He really is. But there was this video, and the guy juggles to Golden Slumbers. There's like a 3 Beatles. It's Golden Slumbers, The End, and something else. And it's beautiful. And I saw him interviewed, and he said, you practice with bean bags when you first start, because you're going to drop the balls. They're going to go everywhere, and you get tired of running after the balls. So he said, I would just use, the little, like the bean bags for, toss across or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would use, because, well, one, if they hit me on the head, it didn't hurt. And it didn't roll across the floor. He says, but if you're going to juggle, you have to plan to be bad at it. You have to, plan to basically suck until you don't. And speaking of Mark being very interesting, he used to be a stage combat choreographer. And one of the things that he'd choreograph was whip cracking. And he would teach
every time I hear that,
I know. It's
Crack
just,
up.
it is funny. And he's taught people, how to crack a whip. And his saying is, if you don't, mess up and, like the whip comes around and hits you on the skin and you get hurt, he says, you're not doing it right. Like, you're going to get hurt. And if you're afraid of it, that you're not doing it right. But it's like, you have to be okay with, this could suck, or it probably will, or, well, let's just see what happens. And we do get wrapped up in the perfectionist piece too much, and that stops us, I think, from doing what our passions are,
Yeah.
or could be.
And the other thing I think we can get caught up in is what other people have to say about it when we announce it, or when we say, I'm going to do this. Oh, you can't make a living doing that, or you wouldn't be any good at that. You were never good at that. You were this, you were that. And we buy it depending on, how much conditioning we've had. Or so I like to tell women not to share their passion until, be careful who you share it with. Not careful, be selective who you share it with, until you're so solid in it that nobody can knock you off course. Because there are people who will, maybe well-meaning people who think that you're being foolish, or you're going to get harmed somehow. But boy, when you can take that leap and end up on the other side of it, there's nothing like it.
Absolutely. One of my favorite sayings, you're an Abraham Hicks, student follower, and the statement, nothing is more important than that I feel good. And that is one of the things that I've, especially lately, this last few months, I have been using as my mantra. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. And if that means, yesterday at 3 o'clock, I decide to go down and play with paint, well, then that's what I'm going to do, because that's going to make me feel good right now. If we decide to spend all day Sunday watching Downton Abbey, because that's our current binge show, and that's all we do, but that makes us feel good, then that's what we do. And so that has helped a lot, because it's like, hey, I feel really good, I feel really happy, and I don't care what other people think. And it does help that people are buying my art, so I'm like, okay, wow, that's cool.
It's not just an expensive hobby, right?
Yeah, Mark is very happy. He's like,
Uh-huh.
is it paying for itself yet? I'm like, finally, yes.
Yeah.
I did a spreadsheet, of course, and said yes.
Or, so it also requires, some deprogramming of ourselves too, because I know that was never, I never heard anybody say that growing up. Oh, it's important that I feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It was important that you look good,
Yeah.
and you act good, and you show up well, but it's very selfish to think it's all about me. That was the message. And boy, I have nothing more to say about that other than what a lie that is.
It is. I mean, the conversation we have here at our house a lot, because Mark is programmed, you know, just it's more important to take care of everybody else. You have to serve everybody else. And so this life that he has, here with me and, my girls, his stepdaughters, and, out of California for 8 years, is I'll say, what is it that you want? And he says, I've never been asked that question. And I've never really felt like it was anything for me to explore until now. So that's been, I don't know if I want to call it a struggle, but I feel like I have to keep, what is it that you want? Well, and I said, and your answer cannot be what I want. That's that. Because he'll go, well, what is it that you want? I said, nope, that's cheating. I'm not going to tell
Yeah,
you what I want.
it's really great. What a gift to him as well. Yeah. Gosh, I just realized what time it is. I think we're about to wrap up here. So, is there anything that you want to? I do want you to tell people how they can find your art and how they can find your coaching. But anything else that you want to end with before we go there that I didn't say or you wanted to say?
I mean, we've said it, but I think I would just like to end my piece with this, which is just play, just explore. Maybe if you're not ready to take that leap, maybe your big passion is flower arranging and you're not ready to go take that leap, go watch videos, get a book, just start playing with, color ideas, get splotches of tissue paper and kind of like, oh, this is how they would look in a vase. I mean, you can play with it without delving into the real thing. but then you will, but just play and explore. And yeah, that's what I'd like to leave people with.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you. Great advice. Maybe you'll have to expand your business and become a passion coach, or helping somebody. Maybe you do that already. I don't know.
I mean, I am very much fluid. So, yes, in my day job, I'm a corporate, consultant and coach, and I don't do 5-year plans. I never have done, except when I first started my business. I don't do 5-year business plans because I find that my life shifts pretty radically sometimes every 6 to 12 months. And if I'm the personality type that if I did a 5-year plan, I'd feel like I was locked into it and I have to follow that 5-year plan. So
You
I
don't
do
want to follow
more,
the 5-year plan, right?
huh?
You don't want to follow the 5-year plan.
No, because
That's like doing the same thing for 8 hours a day or
oh
something
yeah, I didn't thought about that. Yeah, no wonder.
like that.
There's another reason I don't do it. Um, but if there's this opportunity that I might not even realize that might come in October, and but if I'm locked in, yeah, so there's that. So just it's like I sometimes defy, but I think I've always thought of myself as a rebel anyway. As a corporate consultant and coach, I don't necessarily do it the right way, and so there's that piece.
Okay. Well, how can people find you, Dawn?
So I am on Etsy, and it is South Mountain Craft, and the URL is www.etsy.com/shop/South Mountain Craft, because we live
South Mountain Crap, all singular word.
craft. Yeah,
Craft. Yes.
yeah.
I
Should
didn't
be.
say crap. Did you think I said crap?
It did sound like crap.
I don't think I said that. If I did, it wasn't. It was just a, you know.
It's that the F and the P,
Yeah,
they sound
yeah.
very, very similar. But yes, we live on South Mountain, which Mark being a
Oh,
Civil War
okay.
history buff,
Mhm.
and I didn't know anything, and he's like, "You found a house on South Mountain?" I'm like, "Yeah." So it's like, "Do you know?" I don't know it. And if you see the movie Gettysburg and they talk about South Mountain, it's all
Oh, I
very
saw it
fun.
years ago. I haven't seen it
Yeah.
in a long time. So thank you. Thank you. This has been wonderful. I knew it would be, but I learned some things about you. I heard some things in a different way, and I'm going to pay more attention to some of that stuff myself
Thank
because
you.
there's always a new place to go with this information, I think. So I want to thank everyone here for watching us today and joining us for the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show live in the On Purpose Woman Global Community Facebook group. For a list of all of the July and August interviews, you can go to the On Purpose Woman magazine. That's onpurposewomanmagazine.com. Look in the table of contents and you'll see the interviews. And we've got them going through mid-August, I believe, maybe a couple later in the month. We do have 4 next week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll be doing 2 of them, and Catherine Yarborough will be doing 2 of them. And if you love this interview and you love Dawn and you want to share Dawn with your friends, and you're not in the On Purpose Woman Global Community Group, well, if you're a woman, you should go over there and join anyway, because it's really a fabulous place to meet really great women. But we will also have this up on YouTube in the next 48 hours, probably more like 24 hours, but we'll have it up on YouTube. We have a brand new YouTube channel that's called the On Purpose Woman Global Community. So go to YouTube, just type On Purpose Woman Global Community. We have 11 interviews over there already. Please subscribe, watch our interviews. And we'd really like that. We'd really like that a lot because, like I say, it's a brand new channel. We need some faces over there. We need some subscribers. And I guess that's all I want to say. Again, thank you for joining us. I'm Ginny Robertson signing off, and I hope to see some of you around here next week. Bye now. Thanks, Dawn.